I'm about to give you some tips on things you should never do with your gun because you could damage that gun or hurt yourself. If you've done some of these and already broken your gun, you're in luck. We have a gun giveaway going on right now. You can enter for free, but it ends really soon, so just click the link in the description down below to learn which brand new gun you could win. I'm gonna start with the revolver right here. And the one thing that I see lots of people do that I absolutely hate is, first of all, they spin the cylinder. I mean, that's really not gonna break anything, but you're not gonna get that Hollywood style click, 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 because that's not how double action cylinders work. That's Hollywood Foley movie magic. When you spin a cylinder outside of a double action revolver, you hear that? It's just quiet and smooth. But a lot of people will load up the gun and then snap the cylinder shut. That's bad. You could bend the crane. That's this part right here in front of the gun. You could bend the crane. And also people will grab the front, the ejector rod, and try to push that cylinder closed with the ejector rod. Don't do that either. When you push your cylinder closed, put your thumb right on the center of the cylinder and push it closed. Firmly, but without causing any problems. A lot of people will say that, revolvers never jam. Not true. You can break a revolver. And when you do it, you have messed up the revolver to the point that you need a gunsmith to fix it. Typically, if an auto-loading pistol jams, you drop the magazine, you insert a new magazine, you rack the slide, you're back in the fight. If you mess up your revolver by spinning the cylinder and slamming it shut, that can mess up the cylinder locking mechanism as well, or bending the crane or bending the ejection rod. You got a gun that's no longer worthy in a fight. It's not gonna help you. Maybe it'll be a club. Other than that, it's not going to help you. So be a little bit careful with your revolvers when you're opening, reloading, and closing the cylinder of a revolver. That's the first thing. Next, let's talk about the auto-loading pistol and some things you should never do with your auto-loading pistol. A lot of people will argue with me about this, but using the slide lock or slide release lever, typically it's a slide lock, and then people will grab it, hit it with their thumb, and release that slide on an empty chamber. That causes a little bit of extra wear, but it also teaches you to use that thumb to reload your gun. Yes, it's there, you can do it. It is far better and far easier for you to reload your gun by grabbing the slide, pulling it to the rear, and letting it come shut on a full chamber. Now, we're doing this here on the empty chamber because we're being safe. See, clear gun. And yeah, we're putting a little bit of extra wear and tear on this gun, but just dropping that slide down on an empty chamber is not the best for the internal mechanism of your firearm. While everyone's debating about the discussion I just had on whether or not you should drop the slide with the slide lock lever or slide release lever, how you want to do that, there's some other things I want to tell you not to do with your firearm. Don't over oil it. If you've ever read the instruction manual, specifically like on a Glock pistol, it's a very popular gun out there, they tell you to put 1 drop of oil in 4 different locations. Don't over oil your gun. The oil will collect up all kinds of dirt and dust and goo from everyday carry, and you're gonna get pocket lint and shirt lint, and it's all gonna cling to the oil, and that can have an impact on the reliability of your firearm. Another thing I'm gonna tell you not to do is don't get crazy with the soldering iron and over stipple. I might even say, don't stipple your gun, but I have stippled a couple of mine, being very careful. We've also got some really nice pictures of people who tried to stipple their polymer firearm with a soldering iron, and they stippled it enough that during firing, the integrity of the frame was lost and the gun just broke apart. So be careful with that. And if you do stipple your gun, understand it will void the warranty of your brand new gun, so you won't be able to get it fixed at the factory. Well, you will be able to get it fixed. It's just going to cost you a bunch. Here's another one that I want to remind people to do. Make sure you have a good grip when you're firing your gun, trigger finger discipline at all time. This straight trigger guard on your gun is not where your finger goes. That is going to be pulling you off target. You don't want to do that. The proper grip for your gun is finger index on the side, strong hand 3 fingers around the base of the grip frame, and then all 4 fingers around the front. That's it. Do not put this finger over the top of the trigger guard. Might look fancy, you might have seen it on TV. It will impact your accuracy and you won't like it. Another one, very, very important, don't modify any safety mechanisms on your gun. If you're carrying a 1911, I'm sure there's still some people out there who do, don't pin down the grip safety. Don't disengage any of the other safety mechanisms. Don't do any of that stuff. First of all, it makes the gun less safe. It also gives the prosecutor the opportunity to say, of course this person was negligent. He disengaged a safety mechanism. He doesn't care about safety. So don't do any of that stuff. Your gun is built to be safe and function at the same time. And quite honestly, the guys who build and design firearms, they're smarter than all the rest of us because we don't build and design firearms. If we were good at it, that's what we'd be doing. So trust in the fact that your gun will work when you want it to work. You don't need to disengage the safeties. If you do feel like you need to disengage the safety, get a different gun so that you don't feel like you have to disengage the safety. Also, if you're going to work on your gun and improve it, don't reduce the trigger weight. Understand, again, that opens up a can of worms. Not only can you mess up the internals so that your gun suddenly fires when you are not expecting it because you have reduced the trigger weight so much or you've changed the angle of the trigger geometry somewhere inside there. That's going to cause you problems all up and down the line, from shooting your gun at the range to what happens after a defensive gun use. So yes, there are some products out there, some lubricants that can help smooth out the trigger pull, but you don't need to have a super light trigger pull, especially in a combat firearm. Think about it. You're going to be under high stress. You're going to be able to pull that trigger, so you don't have to have a 2-pound or a hair trigger on your gun. And in fact, you don't want that. Under high stress, you're not going to be able to be feeling that anyway, and you might just mess it up. Finally, don't carry your gun without a holster. First of all, there's a reason we call it felony carry. Okay, that's how the felons do it, and you don't want to be associated with those folks. But carrying a gun without a holster is a recipe for disaster. The gun is not retained properly on your body or in its off-body carry position. First, we'll talk about on-body carrying without a holster. You just shove it in your belt and you start walking around, and it's going to fall out. You're not going to be able to retain it. You're not going to be able to grab it effectively when you need it. You want that gun to be held in position so that you can get to it. And you want it to be held in position with the trigger covered so nothing can get to the trigger. Trigger finger discipline during the draw stroke. Make sure you don't negligently discharge that firearm. And if you're in a fight that does not require you to use your gun and you don't have a holster retaining it there, you might lose your gun during any sort of strenuous activity. So we don't want you to do that. On the other side of that coin is carrying without a holster in an off-body carry mechanism, a shoulder bag, one of those concealed carry purses, anything that you might be using. Make sure that you get a holster and mount it inside. A lot of these off-body carry options include Velcro, so they have the Velcro side in there, and you just get a holster with a Velcro back and you stick it in the right position and the gun is right there when you need it. The trigger is again protected. Car keys, lipstick, chapstick, whatever you have in the bag is not going to get in the trigger and discharge that firearm. You will be safer and ready to go when you do something like that. So there we go. A list of things you should not do with your firearm just to make sure that you are both safe and effective when you're carrying. Do you carry with a round in the chamber? Because if you don't, you need to watch this video right next to me because it's dangerous not to, and I'll explain why. Yes, you should carry with one in the chamber.